Is PPF profitable? Hi, I'm Ivan, and this is the Deep Dive. Today on the House of Rags Deep Dive, we're going to be going into, is PPF something you want to get into, or you might not want to get into? So it's a question I get asked a lot. Should I get into PPF? The answer is maybe, and let me expand on that, and there's quite a bit to expand upon. First of all, costs. PPF is very expensive to get into. You require training. To do it right, you require a plotter, you require film, and you're looking at an investment of roughly $25,000 to $30,000 to do it right. Now, some people have done it for less, and the results vary. You can buy a used plotter, you can buy a smaller plotter and then bulk the bigger items. There's a lot of things you can do to reduce that cost, but in reality, if you want to do it right and get the profitability from it that you deserve, then yes, you need to spend a little bit more. Unless you're a miracle of nature, you're not going to learn PPF by yourself. And training is a cost that goes into PPF. The other cost is time. And that time meaning you're starting out now, everything is good, you go to a training, even better, you get home and you realize that it's not as easy as they make it out to be. PPF is something you need to work on. It's something you need to practice. It's something that you're going to be blowing through a lot of film and a lot of late nights maybe trying to figure it out, trying to get to the point where you want to be at. A lot of people look at the brute numbers. So the numbers of PPF sound amazing. We're selling a front end job for $2,500. Well, that $2,500, in that $2,500, you also have to realize there's between $400 and $600 worth of film and the time that it takes. In the time that it takes a PPF installer, a good PPF installer, to prepare and apply PPF to the front end, so a $2,500 job, I can usually do 2 coating jobs. Those 2 coating jobs, my material cost is a lot less. My material cost might be $100 per job, maybe $150. Then from there, the rest is profit. So in that same amount of time, as a detailer, I can bill $3,000, $3,500, $4,000 for a job that the PPF installer is billing at $2,500 and taking the same amount of time. So there are advantages to both. Now, it's not saying that PPF isn't profitable, but PPF is not as profitable as detailing. So if you're used to the profit margins of detailing and you've built your business around those profit margins, you're gonna be a little disappointed with PPF. Because again, people look at the brute numbers. They don't look at the costs involved. And other costs involved are, as I said, learning costs, inventory costs, maintaining, owning a plotter, having the inventory necessary. Having 10 balls of coating still is not going to be as much as a roll of film. And you're going to get a lot more from 10 balls of coating than 1 roll of film. And you need more than one size roll. There's a lot of things involved with starting PPF. Now, on the other side, PPF can be profitable. And when it becomes profitable is when you get really good at using PPF, first of all. Secondly, the other thing that makes PPF profitable is it brings in other work to your shop. So the PPF job brings in a coating job, or the coating job brings in a PPF job. They work hand in hand. They're both protection. PPF isn't the best in protecting in terms of hydrophobics and chemicals, but it's great against stone chips and the odd little scratch. Whereas coatings, they're great at chemical protection, giving that gloss, but no coating is ever protected against a rock chip or a scratch. It's just not something that coatings do. Let's break down these numbers a little bit more. Now that you know that PPF can be profitable, but it takes a lot of time to be there. A lot of people that start PPF, unfortunately, don't stick it out, or they don't do enough PPF to make it worthwhile. And not maintaining the inventory and stuff, but you need to practice and practice often. If you're doing 1 PPF job every couple of weeks, you're never going to get proficient at it. You might do great installs, but you're not going to be profitable. You're not going to be fast enough, and you're not going to develop the muscle memory to lay that film down quickly, easily, without having to take up a piece and maybe have a little nudge of hair under there or something like that. With my haircut, a little easier, but the beard still drops the odd little piece of hair. So you need to look at that aspect of it. Now, if you're willing to dive in and you want to be a 40-hour-a-week PPF installer, then yes, at that point it's worth it. But If you're just the occasional PPF installer, not so much. Now, a lot of people try to save money saying, I'm gonna buy kits. The kits work, but what happens when you screw up a piece? You have to order another piece. That takes time. So now you're stalling your customer for a couple days because, oh, there's one piece that screwed up when I installed it, and no, you don't want to release it to the customer that way and say, oh, come back in 3 days and I'll change that piece. That's really not good on your marketing. It's not really good on your reputation. So starting out, yes, I don't need to buy a plotter. I could just buy kits. And that is something that some PPF companies will mirror to you, saying, this is a great way to start out. Look, you don't have to invest in a plotter. You don't have to have an inventory of film. We'll sell you kits. Well, every PPF installer I know modifies the program a little bit. They might stretch a little bit or a little less than what the program says they're supposed to do. So when they cut, they always tweak the cuts a little bit. Or I like to hand cut the holes for this, or I prefer not to have this. So they're always tweaking. And when you're buying kits, you're getting the kit that they're sending you. Now, some companies allow you to modify that a little bit, but until you've actually done it and said, okay, well, if I say that I'm stretching 5% more than what the kit thinks I should be stretching, et cetera, and work that in, that's great. But until you do so, it's not that easy. And that becomes a problem, and it becomes a cost to you. Plus, not to mention the shipping and the person that's cutting out the kit, you have to pay them for that. So those kits become more expensive. Again, cutting into your profits. When you're first starting out with paint protection film, you also have losses. And those losses are time, 100%, but also material losses. So are you willing to absorb that cost? Are you willing to say that maybe for the first 10 jobs, I'm gonna be billing the customer $2,500 and it's gonna be costing me $2,500? So are you okay with not making any profits on PPF jobs for a couple months to come? That is unfortunately what happens to a lot of people. And that's why you see used plotters for sale, because they realize that I just can't make ends meet. PPF requires you to make an investment. PPF requires you to make not only an investment in money, but an investment in time, that learning curve that you're gonna do. As I said, you might take a class and be a natural. I hope you are, but I haven't seen that yet. I've taken many PPF classes myself, and given the choice, I hire someone else to install PPF. Because yes, I can do it. Do I want to do it? No. Do I enjoy doing it? No. That's me. You may just love laying film, and some people do. But again, there is time involved in learning. And as a business owner, you have to look at your return on investment. You're willing to make that $20,000, $30,000 investment to start PPF. Great. You're willing to take the time. Great. But do you have time in your schedule to say, okay, this car, normally it's a 6-hour job, but since I'm learning, it's gonna take me 12. It might even take me more, or it might take me 10 if I'm lucky. Do you have that sort of time to give? If you have that sort of time to give, then yes, go for PPF. PPF is not a negative thing, despite what I've said and what you've heard, but PPF is a great addition to any shop-based detailing business. As a mobile detailer, doing PPF, not the best idea. You need a clean room, or you need an environment that doesn't have dust, doesn't have wind, doesn't have leaves blowing around, doesn't have the neighbor with the all the garden toys out there with the leaf blower and the lawnmower and all that stuff. No, you need almost a clean room. The PPF installers that are doing well, they have a dedicated room or a dedicated area to install PPF that has air scrubbers in it, that is dust removers, everything like that, because it's necessary. The cleaner the environment you can have, the better it is. If you look around your shop right now and it's a bit of a mess, and it's been that way for a while, well, PPF might not be the best choice for you, because PPF does require a clean room. And if you can't maintain a clean environment to do so, you're not gonna be well off. If you have a building that's dusty naturally, so you have open windows because that's the only way you can get ventilation, or you have an old concrete floor that's dusty, again, you're going to need to change that. You're gonna need to polish the concrete, put down some sort of flooring, maybe an epoxy, what have you, but again, that's an additional cost. Speaking of additional costs, there's one thing that costs every detailer and PPF installer, that's microfiber towels. We go through a lot of them. How do you maintain your microfiber towels? Well, personally, I use this stuff. Yes, Detail Co Renaissance. Detail Co Renaissance is the best way of maintaining your towels that I've found. I've been using microfiber towels since they came out in the late 80s, early 90s. In that time, I've used a free and clear style detergent with a bit of vinegar, and it's worked for me. I've tried many different microfiber washes, hoping one day that I'd find a microfiber wash that is just telling me, this is the one, this is great, it's better than the free and clear and vinegar. I hadn't found one yet, till I tried Renaissance. And when I tried Renaissance, game over. Renaissance is the real deal. It can take an old crusty towel and give it back a bit of life. The name is there for a reason. Renaissance in French means rebirth. It's giving your towels a second life. So give Renaissance a try from the House of Rags. This video, to some of you, may have been discouraging. The goal was not to discourage you from trying PPF. PPF is, as I said, a great addition to any detailing shop. The reason being, the cross-selling between PPF and coatings is a natural. PPF brings in new cars. New cars are easier to coat. You have less correction to do. So there is an advantage of having PPF in your shop. But before saying, I'm gonna start doing PPF, you need to monitor and look at your finances and make sure that PPF is not gonna hurt you financially. You need to have money and time to invest into getting good at installing PPF. Now, employees, that's one way of doing PPF. But finding a really good PPF installer that isn't already working for themselves could prove to be a little difficult. And also, they're gonna ask a pretty penny. Yes, they don't come cheap. You're not gonna find a PPF installer for $15 an hour. Sorry, not gonna happen. And there are some detail shops that they say, we hired a PPF installer, then they realize that the PPF installer is asking for more money than the shop owner is making, which is fine. They bring in that money. They have talent. They know what they're doing. So with PPF, you have to have that willingness to spend a bit of money, invest some money to grow the PPF side of your business. Now, the downsides of PPF. As detailers, we have a really keen eye. And there are some things that I see with PPF installations that I go, no, that's not happening on my car. And there are a lot of detailers that don't like PPF because of how it looks, how it feels, or that little seam that the PPF installer did a great job, but as detailers, we still see that seam. Now, consumers may not see it, which is great. That's what you want. But as a detailer, for some of us, PPF sort of bugs us. And PPF, to me, on my cars is a necessary evil because I pull it behind a bus, 3 feet behind the bus. So I need PPF there. But if I wasn't in that situation, I probably wouldn't have PPF on my car. Now, some things, as I said, I have a use case for it. I'm pulling it 3 feet behind a bus. You're driving on the highway every day, you're in traffic, then yes, again, PPF might be a good thing. If your car after a year is just riddled with stone chips, PPF is a good thing. For a lot of people, PPF is not really necessary, but it does make a really good upsell. It makes a good cross-sell between coatings and PPF. The other advantage that PPF has is it differentiates you. It's something that maybe other people in your area don't offer, so that's a good thing. But you also need to differentiate yourself in quality. There are some shops that I've seen the PPF installs that are quick and dirty. Meaning there's a little thing under the film and they tell the customer, oh, that's gonna go away after a while. If it's a hair, it's not gonna go away. Now a bubble, yes, just like in tint, a bubble goes away. But there are some shops and, unfortunately there are some shops that leave those little imperfections. They tell the customer up front that, there's gonna be a few imperfections, but it is film and it can be removed. Film can be removed. Have you ever removed PPF? If it's been on for a couple years, it's not fun. And there is a possibility of pulling paint with it. So it's something that if you're removing PPF from a car for a customer, you want them to sign a waiver that if paint comes up with the PPF, that's not your fault. You didn't cause that. PPF caused that. The poor paint underneath it might have caused it, but it's not the fault of the person removing. Now, if you're using a razor blade and scraping the paint off the car, sure, it's your fault. But just pulling the film up and paint stays stuck to the film, not the car, that's not your fault. So you need to be wary of that. Even if you're not installing PPF, but a customer asks you to remove an old piece of PPF, do it in an hourly basis, a very expensive hourly basis, because you really don't want to do it. It's not as fun as people think it is. And really, I don't think anybody has ever said, oh, I had so much fun removing that PPF. If you've ever done that, leave a comment below, because we want to know who you are. And speaking of knowing who you are you subscribed to the House of Rags? You know, there's a lot of people here that have a lot of value to bring. There are a lot of podcasters on the House of Rags. Jamie and Eddie put out great content. Some of the brands put out content with them as well. So consider subscribing to the House of Rags. It's good for you, it's good for the industry, and it's a lot of fun. You might learn something. In conclusion, paint protection film. Should I or shouldn't I? The real answer is yes, but be prepared for it. Don't just run willy-nilly saying, I'm gonna throw $25,000 at this and I'm gonna be a PPF installer tomorrow. You're not gonna be a PPF installer tomorrow. You might be able to install PPF, but you probably won't be able to install it to your standards or your customer standards. It takes time, it takes education, it takes repetitions. You need to learn how to install PPF. You need to learn how to install it well before you start selling it to customers. So there's a lot of costs involved with PPF. If you're ready, willing, and have the finances to do it, by all means, go into PPF. If you don't have the finances to do it, find someone that will come to your shop and install it for you. Subcontract. In my shops, that's how we did it. As I said, I've taken many PPF classes and I wasn't ready to install it myself. I can. Am I good? No. Am I happy doing it? No. But find someone that is. And if you have a nice, clean work environment for the PPF installer to come to, they won't mind. If you have a dusty environment that is causing them to scrap film, they are going to mind and they're not going to come back. So you almost have to build a clean room in order to get someone to come install PPF in your shop. We had a paint booth. It was great to install PPF in. Good lighting, clean air. They had a lift in it so they could bring it up to their height, etc., etc. All things you need to consider when you're considering paint protection film. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or ideas, please leave them below. Always remember, subscribe to the House of Rags. We're here to help. Have fun. We'll see you in the next deep dive.